Jonah Dillon of One Commercial Appeal, sir, recently just touched down back in Memphis. What, 48 hours ago from Charlotte? How long have you been back in Memphis from AAC Media Day?
Less than that. Something I don't even know. It's been some long hours. I got a canceled flight, got back in late the other night. I don't even know. It was a couple of days ago, I think. Different time zone. Like I'm
Ooh,
all over the place, man. And then but I'm all over the place. I'm tired. I'm trying to do a million things. But when you called me, dropped everything. Here I am.
come on now. That's what we appreciate. For all you guys that think that the business of sports media production is glamorous, listen to the pain and struggle in Jonah's voice
That's
detailing.
not, I wasn't really, I don't think my goal here was to turn people off of wanting to be in sports media. I guess that's how you took it. But uh no, it can be glamorous.
Okay,
Not
it's
always,
glamorous.
but it
People
can be.
recognize you across. Ryan Silver says you're a Memphian now. It can be glamorous. You're correct.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah.
So, Zona, we'll touch on the thing you want to talk about least first, something that's honestly the biggest news that we'll discuss, or at least not the biggest news, the most controversial news. Do I want to say his name? I'll say his name, I'm not that petty. Former Tiger defensive back Taj Rael. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Here, honestly. He's recently been embroiled in some controversy with some purported sharing of playbook information to UTSA prior to the Tigers' loss to the Roadrunners last October, November was that? Was that November?
November. Beginning of
October
November, yeah.
2nd, yes. And that was a pretty big loss for your Tigers, Jonah. Knocked them out of AAC title contention, knocked them out of potential playoff contention. So, you're a good friend of mine. I put out about 1,000 words on it this morning. You texted me and said you had some thoughts that you wanted to share that you were hoarding until said podcast. So, Mr. Dillon, give me your thoughts on how big a deal or not big a deal you think that this Taj Rael situation is or isn't.
Okay. All right. So first of all, obviously, yeah, I've been saving this up. Uh Connecting this to the Big 12 and Memphis, which I'm sure we'll get to, the rejection by the Big 12. I can say 100% this had nothing to do with that. So I'd like to that's what I wanted to again, this came out after the Big 12 stuff had already happened. So let's make that clear also. So that's what I wanted to say. I mean, look, I was at American Media Days on Friday. We obviously asked everybody about it. Owen McCown was there, so we got a chance to ask him about it in Charlotte, which is where he went to high school with Taj Rael, which is again, they knew each other. They went to high school together, played football together, had a relationship, which is kind of why they were talking. And look, everybody said like and Tim Pernetti also addressed it, the commissioner of the American. He said this happened, whatever, it didn't affect it. Let's move on. Now, I know a lot of people didn't accept that and they don't want to move on. This being social media, college football, we can never move on from anything. So it's important to note that. But I think Memphis lost the game. And again, this is what Ryan Silverwood said. They lost the game because they didn't play well enough. And if you remember that game, the second half, the problem was not the defense, it was the offense. It was in the third quarter. The game was lost by Memphis in the third quarter because of the way Memphis' offense played in the third quarter. Now, they obviously didn't play well in the first half defensively. They looked totally out of sorts. And then obviously, I mean, that game was crazy. Remember the Demir Blankensee touchdown celebration
Hey, that's where he tore his stuff, huh?
with the Ronaldo celebration as he was having like a all-time game, basically, and that kind of ended it. So there was a lot of reason why Memphis lost the game. I don't think you can distill it. I've watched people posting clips from the game. Like, I don't think that necessarily proves anything. Obviously, we know that he did it. Um, and now he's gone. Also, he wasn't on the team at that point. The messages, one of the things you heard Owen McCown said, the messages didn't make any sense. It's important to note one of the messages was talking about number zero, which is Cortland Marsh, and saying that he has a hamstring injury and he's out of eligibility and you should target him. Cortland Marsh had not played the entire season and he didn't play in that game. So when he says it doesn't make sense, it's true. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't, like, he didn't play in that game. So that had no bearing on anything. And his injury was not a hamstring injury. So that one confused me. I don't really understand it. Obviously, Taj wasn't with the team at that point. So maybe there's some disconnect. But yeah, weird story. But again, now it's like they're not playing this year, so not a lot to discuss in terms of that, unless they play in the conference hell game, in which case, boy, we're gonna have a lot to talk about. Uh, But yeah, I mean, like, let's play football, right? That's kind of how I feel. I mean, I understand people keep want to keep talking about it, but like, I don't know what else there is to talk about at this point. It's been addressed by everybody involved, so there's nobody else to like contact about it, and nothing is going to happen. And the game is, almost a year ago, and yeah, there it is.
Okay, okay, that's a clip. We'll go on with that. I don't actually disagree with you on any front, John. Honestly, I just think that I offered a perspective that you did not address right there. Of course, hate to flex on you, buddy, but as a former D1 athlete, I think it just, I think it
Oh,
just, it did hit a little closer to home because, like you said, regardless, and it does appear at this point that the information was inconsequential at best. But I just think the fact that the attempt was made, I think the fact that the intention was to harm a program that you were formerly part of, I think that that was the most bothersome for me because that again, like not to quote my article word for word, but that just goes against the very ethos of sports and competitiveness. You know, guys, again, we have guys in the NBA, we have guys in the MLB recently or back in the day, guys like P. Rose. Obviously, it wasn't a bench situation, but you know, if there's a reason to
well,
believe that there's any reason that either you're not invested in your team winning, again, it maybe again, it wasn't Todd team because he was on a team. We'll get to that a little bit. But the malicious intent of it is what bothered me most. But I think that speaks more to who Taj Rael is a person, maybe more than anything else. Because when I posted that things on my story, I had some former Tigers and some feedback that indicated that this is right in line with Mr. Rael's mental makeup. Um, I have to get into you with that as the CA's Tiger football beat reporter. What were the circumstances surrounding Taj Rael's departure from the Memphis Tiger football program?
yeah, I mean, so he played in it was a weird situation because he came before last season, then he left the team in the summer and was off the team. And then Cortland Marsh got injured and who was gonna be the starting safety. And also this is a team that played with Jordan Hankins defense is playing three safeties. So you obviously need a lot of safeties. And Cortland Marsh was injured. They thought he was going to be out for the season initially. He ended up coming back towards the end. And so once he was out, then they thought, okay, we need another safety, right? We need more depth here. And it was after the portal window closed. So it's not like you can just dip in the portal and get somebody. And so they went and added Taj Rael back to the roster. He ended up being the starter for a couple games and actually played well. If you remember the Florida State game, he had an interception in that game against your guy Mike Norvell. So that was and your guy DJU. So that was his. I mean, that was a good. Like he played well in that game, and then I mean, against Navy, he was playing like linebacker basically. I mean, he was playing multiple positions and was like not only playing and starting, but like a huge part of the game plan. If you go back to the Navy game, Memphis, as Jordan Higgins told us before last season, he would do basically change his entire defensive like structure for that game, and it was around Taj Rael, and he was playing linebacker essentially for that game. So he was playing a really big role, and he played in four games, and then he left and he went in the portal. And so it's one of those situations. It was a little bit different than like the Matthew Sluka situation because it wasn't as like out in the open, I think. But it was a situation where, okay, I've actually played well. I have opportunities to go play at a power conference school, maybe. And so I'm going to take a red shirt and go in the portal. And so that's what he did. He played in four games and he left. And look, obviously, people have said a lot of stuff about him. I'm not here to bury anybody. And also, having talked to some people in his background, knowing a little bit about what he went through, like, I don't think that it's for me or anybody to like bury, especially college kids. But I understand, obviously, why everyone is so upset about it. And then once he left, like then they went back to Darius Coffey and he struggled a couple games. And then when Cortland Marsh came back, I mean, you saw how much better the Memphis defense played towards the end of the season. It was because of Cortland Marsh was a huge part of that coming back or starting. I was, coming to the team, being able to play. And so, yeah, it was a weird situation. It went on throughout the year. We knew about it. And then he ends up going to Purdue, which not so, a lot of guys, and Darius Coffey, I just mentioned, also went to Purdue. Charles Clark, who was with Memphis last year, was a secondary coach, left after the season, went to Purdue. And so that's the connection there. You see that a lot, right? With position coaches leaving, going to other schools, bringing guys with them. And so that's why everyone kind of ended up at Purdue. And yeah, so none of that is surprising. It's just kind of straightforward. That's how college football works nowadays. When I asked Ryan Silvers about it when Taj left the team, both times, he didn't really want to address it. He generally says that if someone's on the team, he doesn't want to address them or talk about them. And so we never really had anything official from the program on any of this stuff. Obviously, we asked about it the other day at media days, but yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the background on it. And again, like when he played, he was pretty good. I mean, people are going to be upset or whatever, but like I think he played for those couple games and played a significant role. It wasn't like he was a superstar or anything, but obviously good enough that Purdue, a power conference school in the Big Ten, wanted to bring him on board. And when he played in the past at ODU, he was good too. So um, again, that's why people say, well, why don't you just get rid of this guy? Why did anybody give him a chance? Like they liked what he could do and they thought he was talented, and so there you go.
Okay. Okay. I feel you. And I was pretty much done with this. But one thing I do want to ask, because again, it's a blessing. We're two journalists. And the guy that actually broke this story, we both know. Shout out Sam Shoemaker. Um, Between my sources and Sam's reporting, I was under the impression that it was a non-voluntary departure for Taj Rail, whatever his name is. Of course, so I was told directly by some former Memphis players that he stole a teammate's gaming system, and just in general was kind of a bad actor on the team. But you're saying that it was a playtime opportunity, voluntary departure.
No, I first of all, the story you're talking about, I heard that the first time. Remember, he left the team twice. A lot of
Yeah. Oh,
people
wow, yeah.
the first time that he left the team, uh, and there were problems. He didn't just leave the team the first time just to leave the team. Like
Mm.
that was a decision that the coaching staff made, and a decision that obviously, again, the circumstances of this whole thing are weird because of the Cortland Marsh injury that affected it, and also just the fact that, again, he was playing at a certain level. It's hard to know exactly what the like. I think a lot of those things are factors in it. I don't think it's one thing or the other. Uh, but again, to me, like if the big story is the playbook league, the bottom line is he wasn't on the team, and also like yeah, I think the one thing I also want to mention, which I think I told you this yesterday, you being a Division I athlete, let me just gas you up there for a second. Uh, oh, there are quotations now in
No,
Division
no,
One
no.
athlete.
That was like my little toodaloo.
Okay, there you go.
That
Yeah.
was my sign of appreciation to you, brother.
So he said whatever he sent them, they had 8 weeks of film on Memphis before that, right? So right? You have 8 weeks of film. That's what you're looking at, right? The playbook is one thing, especially on defense, but you can watch what they did 8 weeks in a row. You got a pretty good idea of how they're trying to do things and their ideas and stuff. And obviously that's an oversimplification, but I think it's important to also note that like that's what you would use, right? In terms of like now, if you know where everyone's going to run at every play, obviously that's going to help you. It just doesn't seem like that's what happened here. But uh, I think if this happened like week one, it would have been different because week one it would be like, okay, well they don't know what to expect, right? They're just watching last season. You got totally different personnel. Later in the season, when you're preparing for a team, I think it's just totally different. And so that I think you just have to also mention that.
Okay, we'll close the book on that one. Nick, flip one. We'll close the book on that one. We started at about 15 minutes in, obviously. Let me write this timestamp down. All right, Jonah. Okay, so we got that out the way. I know your least favorite topic that we'll touch today. Topic that you have been on because you and your buddy Dr. Scott are like this.
Is that interesting? Okay.
Do
Where
you
did that, is
agree?
that your sources telling you that?
No, that is my personal observation of you all's relationship. Both as my time in the newsroom and then the amount of time you all are in shared spaces. That was an assumption that I made. Now, is that incorrect, sir?
No, it's not incorrect. I just like, I never heard somebody say it like that. So
Okay, we know I'm a
there you
little
go.
flat with the language. So, yes, recently Memphis made, correct me if I'm wrong, Jonah, a pretty attractive offer, honestly, to the Big 12 in terms of straight dollar amount, lack of revenue sharing, exit terms. University of Michigan made a pretty significant and attractive offer to the Big 12 that was, pretty swiftly denied, honestly. And as you know, as we both know, as we're both Memphians on here, the Memphis Tiger football team has been looking to the Memphis Tiger program has been looking to transition to a power conference at least for a decade now. Honestly, I would bet. Um, what does this mean for the program? What does the program? What place does the program need to get to be able a serious contender? And what are this? What kind of what indictment is this decision on the program,
You mean on the football program or just the athletic department as a whole?
athletic department in general? Because it's not like
Well,
the Big 12 is going to just take Memphis football.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's hard. The answer to the second one is you never really know. Like, I guess with all this stuff, you don't really know what you have to do to be attractive to somebody. Now, they might tell you you have to do this, but then you come back to them. And basically, it's an oversimplification, but a lot of what happened with Memphis in conference realignment stuff, like you talked about, you go back to the past decade or so, even a little bit more than that. And the reasons that Memphis was told and believed that it couldn't get out of the American into a power conference or just wasn't attractive in conference realignment where the football team was really bad, which was true for a really long time. The stadium was falling apart and needed renovations, and the university's academics weren't good enough. And over the last decade, they basically addressed all of those things. And pretty clearly, like you can say, they did this, they did this, they did this. And those things are all better, right? The football team has gone to a bowl game every year for more than a decade. The stadium is being renovated. It's supposed to be completed next season. They spent over $200 million on the renovation. And then you've got this Carnegie R1 classification for the university, which is a really big deal. And they've been improving academically in other ways as well. So I think they've improved those things, which leads you to believe like, okay, well, it was something else, or those weren't the actual reasons. Now it's hard when you go to the Big 12 because they're considering, they have a lot of things to think about in terms of do we want to add teams? And I think one of the things that hurt Memphis is that Memphis has been trying specifically to join the Big 12 for that entire time. Like there's been at least 3 or 4 times in the last decade or so where Memphis has basically said, whether it's formally or not, they've said we want to join the Big 12 now. And every time the Big 12 has said no. And so now you have another situation where Memphis goes to the Big 12 and says we want to join. And I think if I was a president in the Big 12, especially someone who's been in in the conference for a while, not someone who just joined, that comes across your desk and you kind of say, okay, well, I've already said no to Memphis 3 different times. So now they're telling me this is all different. They're telling me, no, we're really this, we did this, we did this. I think a lot of people probably didn't engage with that to a super high extent, and they probably just saw that Memphis was asking to join the Big 12 again, and they said, we've already said no X amount of times, and I'm not interested. And I think that's the problem for Memphis is there's just some things that you're not going to be able to convince people, right? It's the same, even though the pitch is different this time,
It's a
and there's
perception
reasons.
thing.
It's a perception thing of just like this is the same school or the same team or whatever that we said no to. Let's be honest, the same city that we said no to the other times. And so they're coming back and they're saying they did this. And again, I want to be clear, like all the stuff that they're saying is different. I just went through it's all true. They did improve all those things. But it's a really hard pitch to somebody who's not following all that, like we are, obviously, and doesn't really understand the impact that those things have had on the program, on the city, on the football stuff, all that stuff. And so, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for the Big 12. I've saw some people say like, well, they're just waiting to raid the ACC or whatever. Like, if they're going to raid the ACC and they're going to add 5 or 6 teams, there's no reason they couldn't add one more. So I don't buy that as being the reason. I think it has to do with Memphis. And I think it's basically them saying to Memphis, look, we're not interested. Like, you can raise the dollar figure. I mean, everybody has a price.
Because
So
you as
maybe
a core, as a program, you could be
well, it's
whatever.
just hard. I mean, if I was in the Memphis athletic department, that's how I would take it, right? Without knowing obviously the details of how those conversations went, I think I would be, man, okay, you're not interested because you just aren't interested in Memphis.
Because my thing is, Jonah, 2023, the Big 12 adds three former American teams: UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston. Orlando, comparable to Memphis. I'm sorry. I mean, destination wise, better, but like city wise, resource wise, comparable. Cincinnati,
Disney World, man, come
that
on.
is true. Cincinnati, Memphis is blowing that out the water. Sorry to my Northeast Ohio folks. Even school wise, I think that Memphis takes the cake basketball wise, obviously. Football, toss up. What you think, Jonah? Football,
Well, look. I mean, football. First of all, investment is a big part of it. Memphis is probably better. I mean, it's hard. UCF obviously had been really good for a while. I mean, that's one of the reasons UCF had been the best Group of 5 program for a while, right? And that helps you. If you go back to even 2023, though, the stadium deal was not done. Memphis did not have any
Mm.
money to invest in the stadium. And obviously the stadium, the longer you don't address it, the more, quote unquote, falling apart it is. And so that would have hurt them even 2 years ago because that was the time when the Big 12 was looking to add teams. They could have added Memphis, obviously, at that point if they wanted to. And they wanted to add teams from the group of five, and they chose those three over Memphis. So I think not getting that spot at that time, that's a pretty big blow, even looking at it a couple years later, because that really looks like the chance that Memphis had when, like, in a conference like the Big 12 was actively looking to add teams and was looking to the American Conference and decided not to pick Memphis. So
Yeah, and that's
I've
I
heard a lot of
think
people
like
say
go ahead, my
it's
bad.
fair to say, though, if this whole stadium thing had happened 2 years earlier, those conversations might have gone differently. I'm not saying they necessarily would have, but I think that that would have potentially been something that would have impacted those discussions. Maybe they wouldn't have. Obviously, now they're still not interested, so maybe they were never interested in Memphis. It ends up like I think these conversations you're kind of we end up beating around a little bit, but like realistically, it gets into a city perception thing. I think that that has to be a part of it. Like I think like and everybody who lives in Memphis knows what it's like, and we all know what the perception of Memphis is outside of it. And there's only so much that you can do about it. People always talk about it. It comes into play with the NBA, right? It comes into play with this stuff. And it's hard for me to look at this whole situation and not think that that affects these discussions in some way. And I don't know what you can do if you are an administrator in an athletic department to convince somebody of something when they just have a belief about this is what Memphis is as a city or this is what the school is as a university as a whole. There's only so much you can do, right? And I think that that plays a part in all these things that are going on.
I feel that. And I think the only one, I mean, UCF, I can see the vision. BYU, obviously, I can see the vision. They have unlimited money glitch right now with their investment. Houston, I can see the vision. They were a high level basketball. Their athletic program has always been more high level than Memphis recently. Cincinnati, Cincinnati. What has at what point Memphis and Cincinnati have literally been rivals? In what way is the University of Cincinnati a more attractive option for your conference than the University of Memphis? Really break it down for me, Jonah.
I mean, look, I'm not going to claim to know the specifics. I think probably it has to do with investment in the athletics department at that time, and also the city and the team success. I mean, they haven't been very good in the Big 12, right? They were good. Cincinnati, I mean,
They
you're
had
talking about
Sauce Gardner. They was okay. They went to the
uh,
playoff,
they
but
went to the playoff. They went to the 14 playoff. They're the only group of five
well,
team that
Taj
actually
Rail
did it.
doesn't cheat. Maybe Memphis goes to the playoff.
Okay, that okay. I'm not even gonna do that. Uh, Cincinnati went to the 14 playoff. I mean, they were. You want to talk about national perception, right? Like that Cincinnati team was nationally recognized more than any other group of five team. Now, I don't think that's fair. The UCF team, obviously, as we know, UCF won the national championship a couple years before that, and they should be. Yes, they won the national championship. Everybody should always remember that. That team was really good. You look at the teams that made it out of the conference, though. At Cincinnati, really good football at the time when it mattered, right? Because now, if Cincinnati was in the American now, I wouldn't pick them to win the conference. I don't think they're doing great or anything, but they were really good when they had Luke Fickell and Desmond Ritter and those guys. It was at the time when the Big 12 was interested in adding teams. So, right place, right time. Again, with the stadium stuff, Memphis wasn't really in the right place at the right time. UCF had been really good for a long time, right place, right time. And Houston's basketball team, like you said, had been rolling and obviously still is right place, right time. I mean, that's a big part of it, of perception, because if you go back to 2021 and you were thinking, I want to add a group of five team to my power conference, as we know, football drives almost all of this. So who was the most recognizable football team? Cincinnati. So I think that's it. I think that's it right there. If it happened now, would it have had the same way? Not sure. Obviously, Cincinnati's a big enough market that it wasn't crazy to add them. But I think that's a big part of it. I think the perception and the timing is what drives these things, and that's what happened in that situation.
Hmm. Okay. Last one for me, and then we'll probably get into more your niche. Um, I mean, bear of bad news. Honestly, it's not your fault, but you did touch on some things that I didn't really think about in terms of um variables. in this equation that honestly can't be changed, at least easily or anytime soon. Um, so what you saying that do you think that Memphis can get to a power conference by the end of this decade? Do you think that Memphis can get to a power conference in the next 10 years? Like, what do you think the future of power conference candidacy Memphis has over the next 5 to 10 years?
I think it's possible. I think Memphis is now, we go back to like the right place, right time stuff, right? I think Memphis is in the right place as much as they can be now, in the sense of having invested in the stadium, having shown consistent investment in your athletics department, saying that they're going to get up to full revenue share. That's a huge deal if you're going to go join a power conference. Even some power conference teams seem a little bit iffy on that. So that would be a big deal if you were going to join. Right time, I don't think it's the right time. I think that's the problem right now is they
Nobody
went and
forget
tried
to
to make.
add.
Well, the thing is, you need basically the reason that those teams went to the Big 12 is because Texas and Oklahoma left. Texas and Oklahoma leaving for the SEC created a massive, massive chain reaction. And it took years before that all kind of shook out. And we've basically now gotten to the point where it's kind of settled. And other stuff is going to happen. But if you're Memphis, you try to join a conference kind of proactively. That's really hard to do that. Like SMU sort of did that, but even then, they did it during a wave of realignment.
And
And
the
so
dollar
that
for dollar, SMU has way more than Memphis.
yeah, yeah, but I'm saying like it's even to do that is hard because you have to just be hope that they're willing to have a conversation when nothing preceded it. Whereas like right now, if I'm Memphis, I'm thinking the best chance, and I know people you don't want to wait, right? You want to do it now. You don't want to wait around. The best chance probably, unless something changes or somebody decides, is the ACC in 2030 is probably going to have membership changes based on the grant of rights and how they've done all that stuff, and the fact that the exit fee drops 75 million in 2030, which people speculated means certain schools are going to leave. I saw a report about North Carolina the other day. Clemson
Mhm.
and Florida State have also been, in rumors plenty of times. If teams are leaving the ACC, not only does that mean that there's spots open, but it means that chain reaction things are going to happen. And you've got to put yourself in position to be able to capitalize on that when it happens. Now, people are going to say, I don't want to wait till 2030, or why can't we just go to the Pac-12 and then go to the ACC a couple years later, stuff like that. You can always try to make decisions proactively, but with conference realignment, again, going back to those teams leaving the American for the Big 12, that was all because of circumstances. And they put themselves in position to be able to capitalize when the circumstances presented themselves. And I think Memphis has done that now, but the problem is the circumstances haven't really presented themselves yet. And so, yes, they could in the next couple of years. It might take 5 years, it might take more than that. Can you wait that long? Do you want to just move now because you have to get out of the American? Like those are all conversations to have. But that's what it comes down to is you got to wait for the right time, and it just doesn't look like that's right now.
Mm, okay, I know I said last one, but your response spawned a couple of questions in my eyes.
Look at that. Look at this conversation. This is like that's what I'm talking about right there. I mean, come on.
I'm an active listener, buddy. I'm thinking
I
I like to.
appreciate it. I thought your eyes were glazing back and you were just like, what is this dude doing?
I guess I'll try to do some stuff for SI. What talking about the Big 12? The Big 12 is already at 16. What do you think the next wave of movement looks like for them? You talk about like your chain reaction stuff. What is, are they closer to the SEC Big Ten conglomerate? Or are they closer to the ACC kind of backsliding conglomerate?
Yeah, I think they're closer to the definitely to the ACC. I think basketball wise, they're in a really good place. They've kind of focused on building basketball and making that like a legitimate. Obviously, you got Kansas and then Houston. Like those are schools that are historically really successful and recently really successful. I think also some of the Memphis stuff signals that they're not necessarily like looking to expand right now, which makes sense. You have 16 teams, you don't need to expand. I think a lot of people think the solution for a lot of conferences is to just keep like fortifying yourself by adding more teams because people are going to leave. I don't know that necessarily is true because at a certain point you're just bloating the conference and you're diluting it. Even like with the American, one of the problems with the American football wise is that the teams at the bottom of the conference are really bad and they're weighing everybody down. So sometimes having more teams doesn't benefit you. It just hurts everybody at the top basically. So if I'm the Big 12, it seems like they're not interested in expanding. So I'm thinking, okay, we're going to see what happens with the ACC. If we can add schools from the ACC, it's probably worth it because obviously those are power conference schools. Depends on who they are geographically. Like, does it make sense for Stanford and Cal to be in the Big 12? Probably not. Does it make sense for SMU to be in the Big 12? Probably. Right. So those are the kind of things you have to think about. I don't know that the Big 12 is going to be seriously like if North Carolina, Florida State, Clemson, if those schools are leaving the ACC, I don't see them leaving for the Big 12 unless the ACC becomes such like a wasteland that they have to leave. But I don't see why that would happen if they were in the conference. So I think if those schools are leaving, they're leaving to go to the Big Ten or the SEC. That's a whole other can of worms. So the Big 12, it's kind of like you got to wait and see. I don't think they're necessarily in a bad place, though. I think the Big 12 is in a pretty good spot relative to what it could be with Texas and Oklahoma leaving at this point. They've added teams. They have enough teams that they're doing things that in football, they've got a lot of, I mean, Colorado is obviously a huge brand right now. With football, people are interested. Basketball, like I said, they're doing well. They're doing good in other sports. Like I don't think that there's any concern with that conference. And I think that's part of the reason why they didn't add Memphis. If they were thinking that things were going really bad and they needed to do something, then they would be ready to add teams, especially teams that were giving them that kind of a financial deal. So I think the fact that they said no, part of it, yes, is about Memphis, but part of it is about the Big 12 feeling like they're in a good enough spot right now. They don't need to make moves like that.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. All right, real last when we get to your niche. Obviously, location really doesn't even matter today in the age of conference alignment, realignment. But geographically speaking, the most logical choice for for a Memphis Tiger power conference program would be the SEC. You have natural rivals with Ole Miss and help me out, John. I'm forgetting. You're competing.
Arkansas, Tennessee,
There we
what
go. There we go.
so you
Thank
didn't
you.
want to say it? Is that you
I
won't
literally could not think.
you won't even say it? UTK?
Brother, I don't I almost said something. I ain't gonna mention that. I have no my allegiance right now is to the Baylor Bears, Jonah. So I have no clue. But like geographically speaking, most of the Memphis recruits you're battling against SEC programs. You're in the heart of SEC country. So geographically speaking, how much that matters or doesn't matter, SEC would be the most logical, move for Memphis. Is that all a possibility ever in the next 5 to 10 years?
No. I mean, no. I mean, I like it's true what you said. It geographically, it does make sense, but obviously, like geographic, it doesn't matter. Stanford and Cal are in the ACC, and the SEC is not adding anyone. If the SEC is going to add teams, then they're either going to be from the Big Ten or they're going to be, Florida State or Clemson or North Carolina. Like I don't, they're not going to add a team for the Group of Five. That would be crazy if that happened. This is college football. It's college athletics, so I guess crazy stuff can happen. But Memphis going to the SEC, not on my bingo card. I'll just say that.
All right, actually, last one. This is a fill in the blank, and then we'll get to your Tigers. The next conference that the Memphis Tigers will be a part of will be blank.
You really gonna put me on the spot like
I
that?
really am. I really
The
am.
next conference. So at some point,
Whatever, because I mean, as a Memphian, as you shared this title, we're all eager for them to lead to the American. You laid out you laid out kind of a path, honestly, that you see, or at least some scenarios. But yeah, just give me an answer. And if you want to add some context, we can get or not. But the next conference that the Memphis Tigers will be in will be blank.
I'm gonna say ACC. I'm just going to. I really don't know. I really don't have the answers, and I'm not saying that that's happening anytime soon. And I'm not saying the ACC, if Memphis joins, will be the same ACC that exists now. But and I think the Pac-12, there's a case to be made, especially if you decide that you're never getting an ACC or it's not happening anytime soon. But I think it's possible. I think Memphis has shown that it's investing. If that investment continues, I think it's possible Memphis could still get into a power conference. And if they're going to get into a power conference, it would have to be the ACC. I'm not saying it's happening soon. I think 2030 is the time I would, or moves that happen basically leading up to 2030. I don't see why it would happen before then, unless they make some kind of crazy offer to them. But I think it's possible at that point there could be movement. Memphis could be the beneficiary of that and could be in the right place at the right time and benefit from that situation. There it is. That's my answer. 0% confidence, by the way.
Jonah, add a couple zeros and a one behind that, brother. We need to have still some confidence
If I
in.
could just tell everyone what was going to happen, I mean, that would
You
You
make a
make
lot
a lot
more
more
money.
money doing something else. Yeah.
I'm about to say you would make a lot more money. Shout out.
What? No, no.
No, I ain't gonna say.
What?
I ain't gonna say. No. Shout out your publication, the commercial appeal, and all of its overings and underlings. Leave it at that. Jonah, outside of all this